You have dry mouth? That's a good way to start a podcast. Just put the mic immediately down, huh? Just yeah, it's all right. All right, so rise off.
Is this a real fight? Because if it is, I don't want to take sides. I assume this is banter you guys do, right?
Yeah. No, it's totally banter. Rise a piece of shit, and he's getting a glass of water.
Great.
That he's gonna drink for his fucking dumb mouth. Yeah, drink it.
For his dumb mouth.
For his dumb mouth and throat. Nice.
Hydration's for cucks. Sorry, I've been on Twitter all day.
I ain't no snowflake.
What is a cuck?
A cuck. Oh, this is great. A cuck is. Well, here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid conservatives are using that as like the new way to say like
the F word?
Yeah, but it's not homophobic, which is odd. But they say it with that same like kind of venom.
Right.
But so cuck is a dude who likes to watch his wife get fucked.
Oh, that's cuckolding. Yeah, I've heard of that.
So cuck has turned into Republicans like calling like liberal males like bitches, essentially. Like you like to watch your wife get fucked by another dude.
Sure.
But there is a nice ring to it. Republicans are definitely, I feel like the one thing they have right now is they got the name calling kind of down. Like snowflake and cuck is infinitely funnier than like drumpf or whatever the fuck we call Trump, or like he's orange. It's like, yeah, but cuck's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That is better.
Yeah.
And snowflake, a snowflake is a what? Feminine dude?
No, I think snowflake is like,
A special-
oh, you all think you're like precious.
Yeah, and
Okay.
special.
Which I'm like, yeah. That's
Yeah.
why I live in Los Angeles, because
Yeah.
I'm special.
That makes
precious.
sense.
Yeah, precious. I'm
And
very
precious.
precious. I want to change. It's so interesting now, like on social media, where it's like, if you're a liberal in like every way possible, but you like share a Jordan Peterson article or maybe something that's like moderate or whatever, they're automatically like now you're right wing.
Yeah.
Or then if you're like a conservative and you're like, gay people are fine, they're like, now you're a fucking liberal, whatever.
Yeah.
So like now I want to change. I haven't had the balls to, but I want to change my Twitter bio because I get shit from both sides now. So I want to change my Twitter bio to like a alt-right liberal cucktard. But I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Satisfy everybody.
Sad. It's just why not?
People,
right?
you can't do that.
You can't take you're appropriating cuck culture or something.
Yeah.
I don't fucking get it anymore.
Dude, that's like being a Red Sox fan and a Yankees fan.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, who also likes to watch his wife get fucked.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to Big Bear tonight with my girlfriend.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
It's going to be great, and I'd like to invite all of you guys
What?
because I want to watch you guys fuck my girlfriend.
Oh God, there it is. There it
Thank
is.
God.
Our producer Oliver is friends with her. Been friends for a couple of years. Would you like to fuck Jenny, Oliver?
Yeah.
Cool.
Good on you, Oliver.
All right, sorry, I just wanted to break the ice a little bit.
No, that's a good way to
For
break
all
the
of the,
I'll watch.
What if you find out tonight that half your audience are like these like burly mountain men, and they just like show up with like their like axes and
Yeah.
like lumberjack? I'm so
Yeah.
not a man. I'm like, what do men have? Axes?
Yeah.
And then I ran out of things to list.
Axes, a beard.
Axes, and I guess they're gonna fuck Rye's girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's manly.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. That's chill with me. I can split some wood. I used to split wood.
Did you used to
Axe.
be an axeman?
Used to be an axeman.
Oh man.
I was such a fucking wiener where my first serious girlfriend, like I was like 20, her dad was like super she was fucking cute, man. I think about her a lot. I think I fucked that one up where she was just like this cute kind of like tattooed goth adjacent chick, but she was like fucking funny and filthy, and she was tough, where her dad was like super conservative redneck, where he literally pulled out a gun and just put it on the table, and he would drink too. First time I heard the N-word, I'll tell you that. So he was really scary, but ever since she was a kid, he just had her go fucking chop wood. And so she would just be like, I gotta go chop wood. And you'd think as like the boyfriend, I'd be like, I tried once.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you will get this done faster. And I would just sadly like sit in her room and watch South Park while she would just be like, just like chop wood and then
wood.
come up. And I guess fuck me. I can't even say I fucked her. If she's chopping wood and then goes upstairs, she fucked me.
Wipes sweat off her head. All right, let's do this, babe.
Throws her axe in the corner.
Bend over, Jamie.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening, Jen.
Oh, I don't want to cuddle right now.
No,
Not afterwards.
cuddling's for cucks. Jen, if you are listening, you can also fuck Rye's girlfriend.
That'd
nice.
be great.
Yeah.
Jen, welcome.
Big Bear.
Welcome to my girlfriend's bus. So
like
Jamie
Willy Wonka.
Jamie Kilstein.
Yeah.
Hello, dude.
Hi, buddy. Oh, right. We didn't introduce me.
Yeah, no.
Shit, yeah.
It's so fun hanging out with like comics again, and like even like when I was like super political, even welcome to my girlfriend's puss. I'm like, that's such a silly, funny thing, and I was like, oh, I'd be in trouble. I couldn't say that.
Yeah. Well, not anymore.
I can say whatever I want.
Because you've totally rebranded yourself, as you like to say.
I didn't rebrand. I rock bottomed, and no, I didn't rebrand. That's what's so fucking obnoxious. Where it's what I was talking about in the beginning. Where I remember I went on Joe Rogan's show.
Yeah, wait.
Okay,
sure. Give us a rundown.
Yeah.
You're a comedian.
I'm a comic. I mean, how much of a rundown?
Well, for someone like
Like
me, because
who
I don't
I
know
am?
the full story.
Explain your, in quotes, transformation to Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even okay. So I was a comic for a really long time, and I mean, here's what really happened was I went like ultra. I'm still very liberal, but I went to the kind of liberal where it's like you're not even talking about income inequality or wars. You just kind of like wake up and you go on Twitter and you see what people are offended about.
Yeah.
And then you have to be the loudest person.
Yeah.
So, and that can happen on the right as well. But it's more like Twitter. Like Twitter, I don't even like saying Twitter activism because like there's some Twitter activism that's great, right? Like Black Lives Matter and shit like that. But
It's like a different kind of trolling.
it's
almost.
like it's like hipster. It's like hipster politics where it's like, oh, you were offended by that. Well, I was only offended by like the live stuff, you know. Like
Yeah.
I was only like I was a fan of being offended like before you were a fan. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like you're offended at the guy who said the thing about the black person. Well, why aren't you offended that he didn't say something about like a black trans person or like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
what about
yeah,
the
yeah,
wait, hold
yeah.
on, what about the black trans person in like a wheelchair? And then someone's like, what if the wheelchair identifies as crutches? And you're just like, oh my god, this is like insane.
They're turning politics into like bands.
They're just that's what I'm talking.
Yeah.
They're just trying to one up each other, and I'm like, I don't buy that half the people. By the way, half the people, most of the people who are the loudest about this are like straight white people.
Yeah.
And which I used to do that too. And so much of it is just about retweets and projection and social media addiction, right? It just happens to be political, and because
that's a new thing.
it's a new thing, and also because you feel like you are doing it for a cause, right? Like I do support LGBT rights, I do support women's rights, I do support intersectionality, all that stuff. It's hard to realize that you're being a fucking douchebag because you're like, oh, I'm not a douchebag. I'm a douchebag for the cause,
Right.
you know. And like I remember there was literally a time when like my mom, who's like struggled with alcoholism and like needs to talk to me. I should to be a good son. And literally someone was like, I think my ex-wife was like, your mom's on the phone. And I was like, tell her I'll call her back. I'm tweeting about feminism. And it's like,
Right.
go fuck myself. Like I'm a
Yeah.
piece of shit. So that was kind of the world I was in. But the main reason I was in it is because I've done stand-up since I was 17. I dropped out of high school, started doing stand-up. And I actually came up watching, I was working the door with Pete Holmes at the Boston Comedy Club. And we were watching Chappelle come by every night and Dave Attell and Jim Norton. And all these guys used the term political correctness. And I always saw them as liberal, you know. The first guy who took me out on the road after seeing me was like Mark Maron. He was much more political
nice.
back then. And all those guys to me were like lefties because we were like misfits. We were
Right.
like fuck ups, right? Especially like Chappelle. And so I started hearing all these terms like political correctness, blah, blah, blah. And then the first time I heard it outside of comedy, because they were talking about it as people who were policing comics on stage. And then when I heard it outside of comedy, it was like Bill O'Reilly and Fox News. And I'm like, why are these like gross right-wing guys using like the same words that like Attell and Norton were using? And
Like what?
well, political correctness, where Bill O'Reilly would be like, political correctness has gone mad.
Oh, okay.
But then you go to
Yeah.
the Comedy Cellar table and it's like, political correctness has gone mad.
Yeah.
And so that was like my first kind of like, oh, weird. Comedy is like kind of separated from politics a little bit. So I kept kind of doing my stuff, and my stuff was very left wing. It was left wing during George Bush, so I actually made most of my living in the UK and Australia.
Cool.
So I would go over there, get a bunch of money.
Because they hated him.
Because they hated him, and also they treat comedy like an art. Like Bill Hicks blew up over there.
Yeah.
So because I was an American, ostracized from America, every newspaper compared me to fucking Bill Hicks. I mean, it's lazy, but at the time I was like, this is amazing. Because I grew up on Hicks and Carlin and stuff like that. And my Chopping Wood manly girlfriend, I think, was probably the one who got me into Hicks. I bet you would. Dude, she spoke like Marlboro Reds too. Wow. I miss her. And
You miss being fucked by her.
I miss being fucked by her. Yeah. And so I'm literally thinking about her right now. I'm like,
He's getting an erection right now.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Don't you fucking me too me in 2 years. He came on my podcast, was pretending to talk about politics, and he had a boner. Okay, so I was doing all that, and then I had this year that was like the year I was almost famous. It's like the year you have heat, where like I got into Montreal Comedy Festival. I did Conan. I did the show The Green Room that Provenza used to host, and that went viral. And it seemed like I was going to make it. Like Robin Williams got me as like manager and agent. And then because I was political, I was like the guy. I mean, dude, you may have even gotten this a little bit just from agents and stuff that don't get YouTube or don't get like social media, where would get like industry was like, man, we love what you do. And I was like, great, you want to do something together? And they're like, oh, Jesus Christ, no. Like, you do that, I'll get fired. And that was kind of it. And everything just kind of petered out. And, you know, at the time, we started a podcast before everyone had a podcast. And the podcast was starting to make a bunch of money. But as I was doing less comedy and my ex started doing like really left-leaning journalism, we started to get more political fans and kind of less comedy fans.
Right.
So we would start to get emails about how, you know, like I would never say an offensive word. Like I would never like be like women are cunts or like gay people are this, but like our language was like completely free. You know, I'd call George Bush a cunt. You know what I mean? It was like that. And would talk about whatever we wanted, but we started to get just people right in. You can't say that. That's offensive. You can't do that. At the same time, the more left wing we got, some of the comedy fans were kind of like, this is getting fucking preachy. Yeah. And so our audience sort of flipped. Mm-hmm. And we started taking sort of sides more along the lines of the people who were getting offended, as opposed to like, hey, it's a joke, let's talk about things that really matter.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's like that's also where our livelihood was coming from. I can only speak for me, not her, but like for me, a lot of the stuff I did not believe in it, but a lot of the stuff I was like, oh, this is silly. We don't need to apologize for this, or this is whatever. But I also wasn't getting booked as a comic, getting a bunch of money doing this progressive podcast, and I have a chip on my shoulder about being fucking stupid, where dropped out of high school, even though I've been on like MSNBC with like best-selling authors and stuff, I always have that high school dropout chip on my shoulder. Yeah. And my wife was this really smart journalist. So on the show, I got to kind of play the role of like the dumb dick joke guy. Mm-hmm. And when it came to me being like, do we need to be offended at that? Or like, is this, I'd get shot down pretty quickly and just sort of like take it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I started just to kind of go more and more in that direction. So that's like how that started.
So that's how you got like, I totally understand that. You started pretty much a company and you started a brand pretty much.
Right.
It's kind of a dirty word.
And the audience shifted.
The audience
changed. You're supplying what you needed to your audience pretty much.
And what we were talking about before, we're like, because it's left wing, you're like, well, I guess it's good, even if I feel, and especially like me as like a straight white guy, it's like if someone's like, this is offensive, you're kind of like, I mean, fuck, I guess you're right. Because that was also, I mean, the thing is with the internet, and like I'm sure your like listeners go through this too, we pretty much just follow people we agree with.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to like like say like a dissenting opinion. And your opinion, if you just regurgitate what all your friends are saying, will get you those likes and will get you those. You know what I'm saying? So like here's an example that I hope I don't lose your audience with, but like I wrote this piece that kind of blew up last week. And like Sam Harris posted it and Joe Rogan posted it. And it was about how, well, one of the subjects was like when John McCain died, I would have been the first one to rush to like a fuck you John McCain joke. Because I disagree with pretty much everything he like voted for, right? Even though he did a lot of really good things, especially for a Republican, right? And he was like a badass during the Vietnam War. But during my days, I couldn't have said that because that means I'm like a war supporter, which I'm not.
Right.
Or the fact that like, I feel like liberals on Twitter, they just want to tell you why you're bad. Like anytime you tweet like, man, I really like this movie, like they're just like, here's why this movie's problematic. You're like, fuck, man. I just
so annoying.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to the movies. I don't know who the cinematographer was who like one time like whatever.
Sure.
I saw some people tweeting about Black Panther. What white people just like, guys, this is for.
Oh my God.
This is for black people. Don't go to the movies this weekend. It's for them.
Yeah.
What the fuck
and it's just
is
like,
that?
hey, if it's for them, then why the fuck are you on Twitter making it about you, you asshole? That's exactly what you're doing. You're being like, attention, white person here with a thought on blacks.
And that's actually, that's like kind of racist to be like, guys, it's for black people.
Yeah.
Let them have it.
They outsourced the job to me to tell you guys as a fellow white.
They've earned it.
Well, and it's like, but you don't get attention if you. I talked about this on my podcast the other day. You don't get attention if you. I've been desperately trying like not to tweet about politics and just to post positive shit. But like if I tweet, I really liked Crazy Rich Asians, it'll get like one favorite, right? But if I tweeted like, do all Asians have to be like rich? And like, why weren't there like Asians in wheelchairs and like, you know, blah, blah, blah. Then it would be like, right. Or if I went the fucking conservative way and it was like, fuck Asians, then that would also blow up for the wrong reasons. But like when you're just like, hey, I like the thing, people are like, I don't care.
To be overwhelmingly negative is rewarded.
But
now.
you look at the shit that's trending.
Yeah.
Like when you saw Norm Macdonald was trending this week, was there any part of you that was like, this is going to be something positive? I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
They got Norm.
He either died or he's in trouble.
Or he's in trouble. That's it. It's like whenever I see a city trending, I'm like, there's either a shooting or it's a sports thing I don't get.
Right.
And that's it.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And so anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? Or what were you talking about?
I think you were about to get started with you were getting addicted to the likes and stuff. And,
addicted to the social.
The
the leftist.
That's right. I was talking about like for your audience too, where it's like when you get out of your echo chamber. So I've started following a lot of people who are more moderate now too. I still follow a lot of like hardcore lefties as well, but it's just been so fucking fascinating where I haven't changed my mind on a lot of issues. Like I'm not like fucking packing a gun or like I gotta get out of here to protest that Planned Parenthood. But like, I'm starting to like, it sounds so hyperbolic, but like see them as human beings where I fucking loathed Meghan McCain, right? And again, because on Twitter, it's easy to see people not as humans, but as Twitter avatars. I probably would have fucking made fun of her too. And not seen her as a human being whose dad died because she's a public figure and she affects whatever. And it almost seems like on Twitter, it seems like a video game when you just trash people, right? And so the edgy thing to do when McCain died was look at all these fucking sheep celebrating John McCain. But like, what about all the Iraqis who died? Which, by the way, Hillary Clinton supported that war as well. Or like, what about like this? And it's like, cool. Right. These are all important things to talk about, right? But because I follow these moderates, somebody retweeted into my feed Meghan McCain's first statement on her dad dying. And dude, it was fucking like I broke down. Like I read it, I was just crying. It was just like so sweet and wonderful. And I was like, right. She's a politician who said shitty things or a political pundit or whatever, and he was a politician, but she's also like a girl who lost her dad.
Totally.
Like, fuck. Do I need for retweets to jump on and be like, hey, I know about like a thing she said on The View once that was problematic. So like, good. I'm glad her fucking dad died. It's like, go fuck yourself, guys. Like wait, like Ted Kennedy was our hero, right? He had really great votes. Arguably the reason that we have a better healthcare system right now. Homeboy drunkenly like drove into a fucking lake and a girl died because he swam to safety and instead of calling 911, called his political advisors. Like, he's a fucking asshole too, right? But like he died and we like, you know, I don't know. So I'm just like, I think that shit's toxic. And like,
what was the thing? Like, was there a specific thing that made you realize that?
Oh yeah, my life got destroyed. Complete rock bottom. That's the thing. I can't take credit for anything that happened. Like I'll do podcasts and they're like, hey man, it's really brave that you like saw your mistakes and like, you know, intellectually like turned around. And I'm like, oh no. That's not what happened. I had a incredibly messy divorce and people said a bunch of bullshit about me and all of my friends and liberals turned on me in a fucking in like a day.
Yeah.
I lost all of my money. Like my girlfriend in LA was like the only person like keeping me afloat. I was Googling ways to kill myself. And then sort of made the decision, literally it's like I either kill myself or I try to make myself the best person possible.
Killing yourself is way easier.
So much easier.
Yeah.
It's not though. Because I was Googling and I looked it up and this is true. If you Google ways to kill yourself, the first site that comes up, it's like, I Googled like painless ways or whatever. The first site that comes up is, it's like painless ways to kill yourself, whatever. And you click it and you hear this fucking goddamn like Christian acoustic guitar. And it's like, just kidding. We're all God's children. Stay with us. I was like, well, now I'm definitely going to kill myself because I can't even fucking trust you assholes.
You tricked me.
Yeah. I was just fucking like rickrolled by the goddamn fucking liars in this. Oh, if I can't trust you, I definitely can't trust my family or my friends. So like, I'm going to fucking write a suicide note. And just for you guys, I'm going to dedicate, I'm going to be like, I wasn't going to kill myself until I found this website. I'm going to pin it all on them.
Just let me kill myself in peace.
Dude, I was so also like I was so upset.
Yeah.
And you can't just fucking like TaskRabbit a suicide. So then I finally found an honest website. But even then I don't know how you judge painless ways. It's not like if someone like hangs himself, it's like, well, I know it's painless because he was given like the OK symbol.
Yeah,
or,
like,
you know
how
what
do
I
you
mean?
know?
Yeah,
You have no way of knowing.
People say this is a Nazi symbol now, and they're gonna screenshot it and call me. I'll do this. Peace. And so then I found a site, and it was like hanging yourself apparently is whatever. So I bought all the shit because my girlfriend was out of town.
It's what, relatively painless?
That's what they say, but I'm like,
You don't know if like as soon as you do it, there's like you feel red ants biting you for the rest of eternity.
Forever.
You know, forever.
So my girlfriend was out of town, and when me and my girlfriend met, and she was just like beautiful, and we started dating like 2 months before this happened. And when we first, so my thing that I like to do, it hasn't worked yet, but I still do it, is on like first date, if I think it's going to be relationship-y, I'm like, what do you suck at relationships? And I'll tell you what I suck at, and then we'll be aware of it, and then we can like work on it. And she's like, well, I get jealous sometimes about nothing, and then I get very mean. And I was like, well, I'm just happy you like me, so fuck it. And I just completely ignored like all the, like my brother was like, what does she look like? And I was like, oh, she's beautiful. She's blonde. She's covered in red flags. Just like, no. And
she's beautiful. She's blonde. The sex is crazy. Her dad's not in her life.
No. Oh my God, dude. I don't want to, one time after this insane jealous thing that she had to like apologize for, because it was like, especially after all that shit that happened to me, I was like, it was so frustrating because I was like, I'm not going to look at another girl. Like, I'm so happy to be in a fucking relationship that I'm like, I cut all like even my girlfriends out of my life. Like, jealous relationships are fucking toxic. I usually thought it was just guys who did that shit, but like checking my face, all that stuff. But so one time I like confronted her, and I was just like, can we figure out where this, because you wouldn't go to therapy. And I was like, can we figure out where this is coming from so we can like work on it, or I can like empathize or whatever. And I was like, were you cheated on? And she was like, no. And I was just like, what could it be? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, my dad had a secret family. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is a secret family? Your dad had a secret family? That's it. And she was like, I mean, it could be. I was like, no, your dad had a secret family that you were like, yes, of course that's what it is. So anyway, she was really jealous, and because the shit being said about me had to do with like exes and stuff like that. And I should say, by the way, for any of your like terrified young listeners, nothing was said about me in like a gropey way or like a consent way or a sex when drunk way. It was because I was labeled as this self-righteous male feminist, saying that I like had consensual sex on the road with someone who was like a fan of mine, or saying that I flirted on DM. Nothing sexual. No, I've never sent a dick pic. I'm like too self-conscious.
You got to do it, dude. It's great.
Is it great?
Yeah, it's great. It's the best.
All right. Hip hip. Such a creepy look in the camera. But so it was shit like that. But because it's fun to laugh at the haha male feminist guy does normal guy shit, fuck him.
Yeah.
Which is what it turned into. So just to be like super clear.
Sure.
And most of the stuff written wasn't even fucking true, or there was like a very heavy other side to it. But even if it was all true, which it wasn't, it's still not a thing. There still shouldn't be the word accusation in front of it, or misconduct, or anything like creepy like that. And it sucks. I still walk around with that as like, if I go on a date, if I lose a booking, if I think I'm close to like a book deal, something like that, it's just like, wow, this fucking thing's gonna come up like you were accused of something worse that like I can't even like imagine. But there's no way to be like, here's the evidence I didn't do it, because it's so vague and weird and innocuous, but the headlines make it look very like sensational. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what happened. Oh, so my girlfriend, she was out of town when I was doing the old Google suicide thing, because I was like, well, everyone else left me, and this girl's already jealous. I'm like, there's no fucking way she's sticking with me. But she was probably just like, well, no girl's gonna get him anymore, so I don't have anything to be jealous about. And she was a rock, man. Like, she got me through all of it. But before she came, I looked it up. I bought the rope thing, and then here was the saddest part that happened. I was like looking at how to tie the knots.
Yeah.
And like, I got kicked out of Cub Scouts, right? So I'm like looking at how to do this, and I can't fucking tie the knot right. And I start crying because I'm like, I'm going to be that guy who like, I go to jump and I fall straight through and like I break my legs. And then I just, for the next several years, just unsuccessfully, I'm trying to like wheel myself like into traffic as like cars like swerve. And they're like, we saved that man. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And so I started sobbing because I was like, that is a low moment where I'm like, I am too much of a fuck up to kill myself.
Right.
And so that was sort of like my rock bottom. And then my girlfriend came home, and, you know, when we started dating, she was actually much more like, say whatever you want, a lot of feminism, stupid. She like listened to the Bill Burr podcast. She would have been my dream chick like 10 years ago, but I was so sort of like social justice brainwashed that she'd be like, you want to listen to Bill Burr? And I'm like, let me tell you why he's problematic. And it's like shocking she wasn't like, I'll tie the fucking knot here. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
You sound super fun.
yeah. Oh, dude, it's just a nightmare. But you hang around a group of people that will shame you when you step out of line publicly like that, that you just like, I never liked people that compared like the ultra left to like cults or anything like that, because I still do believe that the goal of liberals, right, like a more equal society, is the right one. So I was just like, fuck you, that's hyperbolic. But honestly, any tribe where you're not hearing outside point of views, whether it's on the left or on the right, or it's your fucking family, or it's your church, or it's whatever, if they don't allow other viewpoints in there, it's creepy, man. And then
Yeah.
when you get
Yeah.
out, I'm still regurgitating it. Like there'll be times on this podcast I want to say something and I'll self-censor myself, or I'll go to say it, but I'll give like a million prefaces
Yeah.
so that someone like won't think it's problematic just
Right,
because it's
right.
fucking habit. It's just like
It's like
being-
institutionalized.
Dude, yes,
Yeah.
that's the word. That's
Yeah.
totally the word. Yeah, because I hate the word cult because I think that's a little hyperbolic, but it's institutionalized.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of, and then I just started listening. Rogan had me on, and I'd stopped listening to Rogan for a really long time. I started listening to him again, and being able to hear lefties on his show that I agreed with, but then also conservatives who I still confidently disagree with, but who also said a lot of stuff I liked. Like this is really, this is fascinating to me. I don't know if it is to anybody else, but I feel like the right is doing a really good job right now. Conservatives are doing a really good job of shockingly getting young people, especially young men. And I think the reason is, so you guys know Jordan Peterson?
No.
Okay, so Jordan Peterson, God, it's so nice to be around you when you're in again that Twitter lefty mob world. You
Yeah.
just assume it's everybody, and then you realize that it's nobody because most people have lives and are on
Right.
Twitter all
Yeah,
day.
Yeah. I was
Right?
thinking about that today. I was thinking
Really?
about that, like,
what happened? Did
I
you
was
get-
just thinking, like, I'm tired. I'm getting tired of everyone being upset.
Yeah.
The Norm thing came out, and I was like, I kind of don't even fucking care.
no.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
And then I was thinking, like, I think most people don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just because I'm on Twitter, and Twitter's all about, like, Louis C.K. shouldn't be performing. It's like, most people don't even have, or like, people who are on social media.
Yeah.
They're like the
don't even
bald
know
guy
about
who
this
doesn't
shit.
like his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a big issue to them.
So
So
who cares? Like to them,
No.
it's like, it's
Yeah.
literally like, who cares?
There are Mexican kids in cages. I don't care what Norm Macdonald said about Louis C.K.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the fact that we're not even mad at Louis anymore. We're mad at someone who said they felt bad
Right.
for someone who was accused of something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then someone will hear us and then they'll be mad at us for defending Norm, for defending, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's like Groundhog's Day if it was like in hell. Like, it's just awful.
and people
Yeah.
people feel like they have to be upset about
They
it.
have to comment.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember when the Louis thing first happened, and we don't have to get into it, but when the Louis thing first happened, here's what's scary to me, is that everyone else is expected to comment on it. If you're a comic, you have to disown him right away, or you have to.
It's like pick a side
Yeah,
or
like
something.
Like Norm shouldn't. He's promoting his fucking apolitical comedy show. Why is a journalist even asking him about Me Too?
Yeah.
Norm Macdonald, the guy who made Dirty Work. Why are they like, and I'll tell you why. It's because they want to ask any celebrity this fucking landmine riddled question
Yeah.
so that they can get a clickbait headline
Totally.
the
Yeah.
next day
Yeah.
that's like, Norm Macdonald says something bad about Me Too. It's like, right, because he's a fucking nightclub comic who's used to talking to other comics and saying
Yeah.
really edgy, offensive things. And Louis and Roseanne were really good friends of his. And he said, yeah, I felt bad for them. It's like,
Yeah.
why can't we also see empathy
Right.
for that? Where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, the guy also feels bad for his friends. Did he speak about it like the most like articulate, intellectual way? No, because he's a fucking comic, right?
Yeah.
Like he shouldn't. He's a comic.
And he's known
Yeah.
for like fucking with interviewers too.
Fucking with
trolling.
interviewers. Yeah. And
He
now,
doesn't give a fuck.
Dude, now he is on this like Cersei Lannister shame tour where I Googled him today because I was going to write about it. And the first two headlines were like, a miserable looking Norm Macdonald goes on The View to apologize. Like, I think it used the word miserable. And then the other one was a pull quote. I think this was Variety. It was a pull quote, and it said, it had a quote from Norm that said, like, I've done terrible things. And it's
Yeah.
like, that looks and sounds like Norm Macdonald raped somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just see that quote, I've done terrible things. Norm apologizes
Yeah.
amidst Me Too scandal. You just look at those headlines.
You don't even read the article. And you're just
I've
like,
done terrible things.
Yeah.
Like, why is he even on The View talking about this?
I
He's
didn't-
not even the person who was accused of doing anything. So
I
anyway,
didn't know he went on The View.
yes, today.
Oh, this was today.
How did it go?
Terribly. I mean, not terribly. Like, they just grilled him.
Yeah.
And then eventually they were like, do you want to plug your new show? And he's like, I don't really feel right about that. Oh, and then he went on Howard Stern and while trying to apologize, because he's Norm Macdonald, they were like, shouldn't be laughing about this. I'm going to get in so much trouble. They were like, do you really think that like Me Too Like something like the victims didn't have it bad. And he's like, no, of course not. You would have to have Down syndrome to feel like they didn't go through anything terrible. And then now he's on another show the next day being
Jesus.
like, I apologize
Yeah,
for my
yeah,
apology where I said that you had to
the
have
other
Down
thing.
syndrome.
Yeah.
And like, it's just
It's
this
crazy.
fucking spiral where
Yeah.
it's like, God, you're apologizing for your apology. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man, there's more important. Isn't there like, there's going to be a fucking hurricane tomorrow that's going to
Yeah.
like kill the East
Yeah.
Coast? Like, fuck.
But it's so easy to pick comics, I feel, because comics are like the outliers. Like they're supposed to think differently. That's their job.
I
is to
wrote,
think.
that's what I said.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's totally.
You would always go to them to challenge the sort of norms. So it's like, oh, you guys think you all agree? And then a
Yeah.
comic can be like, well, what about that angle? And you go,
Totally.
fuck. Or you laugh at it. Or you go,
Yeah.
oh, that's wrong and fucked up.
Yeah.
But that's funny.
Yeah, because
And
you
then-
don't you think it all the time, and the comics are the people that go like, okay, this is what, this is it,
And you go, fuck, you're right. I'm
Yeah.
not racist, but I did cross the street because I'm an
Yeah.
asshole white person.
Totally,
Or
totally.
that was, you know what I mean? Like shit like that.
yeah, it's fucking nuts.
I think people feel like they have to have an opinion. How about just not caring?
You don't. Here's what I noticed.
Yeah.
I'm a better human being. I realized it was hard because when all this stuff happened to me, they were like,
You're a better human being from what?
leaving all that
Oh, okay.
and not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Where like people would be like, how have you changed? Like, did you learn anything when it first happened? And I was like, no. It's hard to change when the things you were accused of you either didn't do or they were blown out of context or proportion or whatever. But then I realized that. So I just threw my life into. I started teaching jujitsu. I started meditating. I started doing all the hippie shit people in LA do. And what I realized was, I didn't do those things people thought about me or said about me, but I was definitely like more selfish than I should have been. I definitely like in relationships made things about me. I was codependent. I didn't have the balls to like talk to my wife about our problems instead of acting out. There was so much stuff. I got all of my attention online, so it was easy for me to ignore my friends. I definitely, even with like, and one of the things that breaks my heart about like Robin Williams is like so many of our emails were like me needing help. You know, and like so many of our phone conversations were about like me being depressed. And I would ask him, I would be like, are you okay? What's going on with you? And he wouldn't want to talk about it because he was like a good dude and like going through whatever he was going through. But I still think about that where I'm like, fuck, I should have done more. And now I have a couple celebrity friends that like kind of that stature. I mean, not as much as Robin, but I'm like, I make sure I don't ask them for things. And I just text them to see how they're doing, or like we talk about girls or whatever. And my friendships are better. And I mean, fuck, man, I didn't even think, like, I was convinced that I would be a bad dad. I didn't even think I wanted kids because progressives, they don't want kids. You're just supposed to be vegan and not have children.
Yeah.
And and I started teaching kids jujitsu, and I'm like, I'm really good at this. And like kids fucking love me. And like, maybe I want a kid, or at the very least, like, I'm actually helping people. Because even when I was tweeting things that I believed that were positive on Twitter, so like your fans are probably really well-meaning, right? And they'll post something about Trump, or they'll post something about a school shooting, and great, do it. Like, I love how passionate young people are. But if you're sitting there and you're refreshing it like a fucking Instagram picture, then it's like, remove yourself.
Right.
Because now you're starting to do it for the wrong reasons.
Totally.
And that becomes addicting.
Yeah.
And what's happening is you're probably ignoring the people around you, and you're getting into these fights online with people whose minds you're not going to change.
Right.
But I'll tell you this, if you're nice to your fucking conservative neighbor or whatever, and you can actually have conversations and not call them a Nazi, you might be able to change that guy's mind. Because they look at you as a kind, compassionate person.
Totally.
And now they want to hear you out because you heard them out.
Yeah.
And so what I realized is like, it's not as popular, and my Twitter's not as popular, and I certainly don't have as much money. And I'm, picking my life up. But like, dude, I talk to my brothers every day. I talked to my dad almost every day. I would talk to them once a month. I didn't talk to them for 2 years because I was like, they made fun of me and my wife for being vegan. So like, fuck them. I'm gonna go talk to these vegans. So we didn't talk for a year.
Yeah.
And I decided that the last time I saw my grandfather before he died, and I didn't go to his funeral. Like, I was a shitty person.
Did that lifestyle give you a lot of anxiety by any chance? Just always needing to like.
Yes,
be
I
intense?
was convinced that I was an alcoholic, that I had clinical depression, and I would say on the show that. And I had tons of panic attacks that I was like clinically had like anxiety and depression. Guess what? I have none of anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
None of.
Because whenever I post anything a little bit controversial, which I rarely do, I'll do that tweet and then I'll like worry about that tweet.
Of course you will.
And so that must have been your
That was my
entire
life.
existence.
Not only that, but that was actually my safe place. Was the
Right,
internet.
yeah.
Because my real life was worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
what happened? Did comedians, they just stopped liking you?
comedians stopped liking me because I went super like social justice warrior, and I would
Yeah.
take like politics side over like comics. So like when Daniel Tosh got in trouble for the rape joke, I was
Yeah.
like one of the comics on MSNBC talking about how problematic he was, not realizing the context of it or that it was a joke and not caring.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, you know, like Rogan and Stanhope and guys who were like friends of mine, like, and their fans are fucking brutal. So
Yeah.
they all kind of came after me. I had to shut my Twitter down. All I had were these sort of like lefty journalist friends who would only call me if they like needed me or like wanted to get on MSNBC
Yeah.
or like, you know, I like gave two of them like my podcast slot so they could start making a living and could quit their fucking day jobs. And then, you know, once I like needed anything, it was like chirp, chirp, you know, like
Right.
nothing. And when all this stuff happened, what was really cool is the first people that reached out to me were comedians, were comics. Rogan and Jim Norton, who I didn't really know that well. Stanhope, Paul Provenza reached out to me. And they wanted to make sure I was okay because I disappeared. And all of these sort of like progressives who knew that I'd struggled with like suicide and depression and stuff like that, when I disappeared, like didn't reach out to see if I was alive
Really?
or okay. Because they kind of had their marching orders where they're like, Jamie is problematic now. And what I forgot about comics is on the left, they're so easy to demonize because they don't have a filter and they're always trying to say thought-provoking things. Mm-hmm. But you forget is we're all comedy people because we're a little broken and we're vulnerable. Like whenever I do interviews, or I used to do press, and they would be like, so tell me, were you like the class clown? I was like, no. The class clown called me a faggot and pushed me into a locker. Like, the class clown was an asshole. The class clown was a hack. The class clown was the guy who did like racist accents and like called the teacher a bitch. And everyone was like, yeah, you're Ferris Bueller or whatever.
Yeah.
The comic was the one who was getting beaten up by that asshole. And we were like journaling in the back, right?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like watching Monty Python or like Freaks and Geeks or like shit like that. And those were the comedians. We were the broken people. And I used comedy as a defense mechanism. I used comedy, you know, like fucking MMA guys like learned MMA to protect themselves. I was like, I used comedy as like my MMA for like emotional trauma. And like when my mom would relapse, me and my brothers like wouldn't know what to do. And then one of us would make the most offensive joke and would all start laughing. And then once that laughter broke the ice, we could like deal with shit.
Yeah,
and we could
yeah.
like be like, okay, so now let's attack it. And so I really forgot that about comedians where, you know, that's why Rogan and Doug had me back on their shows. And when I was like, I thought you guys hated me. And they're like, no, man, we were like bummed out. We were sad. And like, you're a comic. You're one of us. And like, when I heard that, I was just like, oh, that's right. Like, you guys are like much more willing to forgive, which is odd because they're known as like the loud assholes, whereas the progressive people are known as the compassionate people. But the progressives on Twitter, who again are very different than like your everyday liberals, the ones who just want to shame people out of a job, you know, it's like one day they're going to realize the reasons they're doing it. Because the reason I was doing it is because I was miserable and depressed. So if I saw someone fucking up online and you could feel like you accomplished something because you're like, haha, he got fired or whatever, it gives you like sad purpose for like a second. And then you have to move on to the next guy.
And I think there are some studies shown. I think Rogan talked about this, like just leaving a hateful or negative comment
Yeah.
affects you. It like doesn't benefit anyone.
Well, it's
like,
the opposite
ever.
of sports psychology, right? Sports psychology, you're supposed to visualize these great things and you making these shots and you coming back from adversity. And if you're just spewing hate all day, yeah, man, that really affects you. Like I walked around, I mean, social media in general, you have two sides of it. Your younger listeners will probably get this one side, which is the opposite of that, which is there's the Instagram side. Where, and I like Instagram a lot. Like I'm new to Instagram, but I like it because it's a more positive place, right? Like I pretty much follow like athletes and like inspirational bullshit. And I post pictures of like my cat.
Same.
It's the best. And at Jamie Kilstein podcast. But Instagram a lot of times because people are posting their best self. A lot of times, especially younger people, especially younger girls, will see these like perfectly cropped images and just sort of assume everyone's, for women, it's like, oh, everyone has this perfect body. For guys, it's like, oh, everyone has like money and these like nice cars and whatever.
Yeah.
And so you can be like, oh, these people don't struggle at all. I'm the only one who has these negative thoughts. I can never accomplish that. And then on Twitter, it's what you were talking about, where it's everything is so fucking negative and toxic that's all you see, where
right.
I don't believe, you remember The Secret?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't necessarily believe that if you say, I am rich into a mirror, some kind of energy is going to attract money to you, that law of attraction thing, right? But I do believe in sports psychology, and I do believe that if you can visualize yourself accomplishing your dreams, right? That it's not just going to magically come to you, but you're going to see opportunities. Whereas if you were only like, I'm a piece of shit, the world sucks, you wouldn't even see those opportunities, right? They would kind of pass you by because you'd be like, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
I'm not right for that. As opposed to just being like, no, I know this is going to happen. You know what I mean? And now let me find, you have to do the work though. You have to, now I'm going to find the ways to do it. It's kind of the same as that, where if you're just only looking for the negative in every movie that comes out and every political story, if you're like, how do I make this negative?
Yeah.
How the fuck do you think you're going to handle your relationships? How do you think
Right.
you're going to handle like, oh, when you can't find a parking spot? Right? Just everything is the fucking goddamn end of the world. That's why every fucking liberal every day is like, I need another like me day. I need another self-care day.
Yeah.
It's like, I believe in self-care so much. Like I do it. But when every day is a fucking, I got to take off work because I saw a commercial that made me sad. It's like, fuck, this is why the Republicans are attracting these young men. This is what I was saying in the beginning, where, so Jordan Peterson is this guy. That's right. I got so excited that you guys didn't know who he was because all I see is these Twitter think pieces. Jordan Peterson is like the dude everyone on the left's attacking. I don't agree with him politically. I think he was saying like he doesn't want to, Canada was going to make it like it would be against the law if you don't call trans people by, not just
By
their
their correct pronoun. Or
but
whatever.
not just that. There was like a list of like 30 pronouns. And Jordan Peterson said like if a trans person asked me like, this is my pronoun, he would do it. But he was like, I don't want the state to require me to whatever. I don't care about any of that. I'm pro trans people. But the way the left talks about him is like he's fucking Hitler. Where when the left finally, when I like left that radical side of that, the left, I very nervously was like, I'm going to fucking listen to Jordan Peterson. Like, as a fuck you. Like, I'm going to listen to Jordan Peterson on Rogan. And I was, like, literally nervous because I'm like...
Oh, okay, he was on Rogan.
I'm like, here comes some racism. Like, he's a best-selling author because of Rogan. And I was, like, braced for it. The majority of what he talks about isn't even really political. He has a lot of, like... He's a clinical psychologist. So the majority of what he talks about is literally, like, you should make your bed. Because if you make your bed... you're not going to feel like a fucking slob, and you get to start your day accomplishing something. And you should want to, and if you're a man, you should want to take care of your family. Not because a woman can't take care of herself, but like it's okay to be a protector and to like fess up when you fuck up and to try to be better and walk confidently and walk with your back straight and your shoulders back, right? And I heard this stuff and I was like, this is incredible. This is so great. Like, I love that because there's not a lot of people on the left. I mean, this is what I try to kind of do on my podcast because I've been around like professional fighters for so long now. I mean, that's how I make my living now, that all of these words like discipline or phrases like pull yourself up by your bootstraps or confidence or be a man or toughness, it's been hijacked by Republicans. And a lot of Republicans who were born into privilege, by the way. It's like when George Bush tells like the poor black kid, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like, hey, your family stole all the boots, assholes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that those concepts are bad and that the left gets to be like, oh, toughness is bad, so I'm just going to be a fucking puss and stay at home all day.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to like work hard. And so what happens is young men hear this dude for the first time being like, hey, get your shit together and be tough. Or like Jocko, who I fucking love, who's a Navy SEAL, who's been on Rogan's and Tim Ferriss's. But I wouldn't be allowed to listen to Jocko because he's a Navy SEAL and probably a war criminal. Like, I'm going to have him on my show. And he's so inspiring, where he's like, if something bad happens, you say fucking good, right? If you tapped out to an armbar, you say good, I'm not going to get tapped out again. If you get fired, good, you didn't fucking want to be at that job and you wanted to climb to the next level. Like, you get dumped, like, good, you're gonna move on to someone better who actually fit. And he's so fucking inspiring. The dude wakes up at like 4:30 in the morning every day and like fucking posts a picture on Instagram like 4:30 and it's like him with like chalk on his hands from like weightlifting. It's like, that dude's a fucking man. And I would never have been able to look up to him. I have so many girlfriends who are like, I wish men would be men again.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're afraid. They whisper
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, they're afraid to be. And I'm like,
Totally.
fuck yeah. You
Yeah.
think I'm ever going to make a first move? You're out of your goddamn mind.
Yeah.
And so, but then what happens is these young men are attracted to these guys, and then they go on YouTube, and because they're known as being sort of like alt-right or conservative, even the ones who are still very liberal, because the left has branded them that, YouTube will go, cool. If you like Jordan Peterson talking about making the bed, you'll love Ben Shapiro saying that like Palestinians should die. And you're like, fuck. So then these kids go down this wormhole and they're like, well, I guess I'm right wing because like that guy kind of spoke to me. Because on the left, if I talked about, I got like, not thousands. I've gotten hundreds of emails from people who are like, because you talked about your depression and all this shit, like I didn't kill myself.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons that I kept doing the show. And then towards the end of it, we had people writing in and being like, can the cis white man not talk about his depression? Someone said me talking about suicide was a microaggression towards them. Like all this insane shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. I'm not a men's rights activist. I don't want suddenly a bunch of like rapey guys to jump out of the bushes and be like, are you us? I'm like, no, go back in the bushes. I'm not.
Yes.
But also, if you make all these young men feel like they don't have a place on the left or that they're only the problem or that like any form of masculinity, including the good kind, including the kind of fucking masculinity that if you see a fucking gay kid being like picked on in the street, you're going to fucking step in and do something to protect him, to also beat the shit out of him, to protect him, then it's like, where else are these kids going to go?
Yeah.
They're going to go to what's very appealing, which is men being like, fucking, you got nothing to be ashamed of, which is also bad. You should be vulnerable. You should take the best of like femininity, right? Just like women are fucking tough as shit too, right? But you should also not be afraid of those qualities that are like good about being a man, you know?
Yeah.
When things go to extremes, like,
Yeah, man.
Like, I was talking to Kurt Metzger. We were both talking to Kurt Metzger. He was like, I knew Trump was going to be president because the lefts are so fucking extreme that everyone goes the way other side.
Really?
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah. No, he totally knew that. And when I heard people saying that, I was like, easy for you to say. You're just like privileged or whatever. But it's like, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people are hurting really bad right now. This is why I was like, I'm not telling your audience like, so go listen to Jordan Peterson or go be more conservative than liberal. What I'm saying is like, keep your fucking house in order.
Yeah.
First. Take care of your family before you tweet about it. Make sure you're the kind of person you want to be before yelling at other people about being the kind of person you don't want them to be, right? And that's what I didn't do. That's what's changed about me. Where now I went from being rich and married to broke and single. I go to sleep and wake up every day really happy. Even the days I'm like scared. Whereas before, if something scary happened, it would send me into a fucking spiral, panic attack, you know, like all this shit. And now, like, I don't. When something bad happens, I'm sure since you told me your audience is like younger, I'm sure a lot of your guys go through like depression or like suicide stuff.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is this. Two things, actually. One, because I talked about suicide, I don't want it to seem like I was like obviously advocating that. The people, and tell me if you guys have seen this, the people who write me about like being suicidal, a lot of times those emails are like the sweetest, funniest fucking, where you can just tell like you're a fucking such a cool kid.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's those kids because they have such empathy and because they're so intelligent.
Right.
And probably and self-deprecating, and which I'm sure the three of us are too. They're the ones who are like, I'm a fucking burden on other people. It would be better if whatever.
Yeah.
And you want to grab them by the throat and be like, you're
And
one of
choke
the
them to
and choke
death.
them to death so they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And so you can get your primal man rage out, like
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson says.
Masculinity.
But you want to just be like, you're one of the good ones. Like,
Yeah.
you can't leave. You can't leave us with all the fucking overconfident assholes
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah.
are like just fucking pieces of shit. They're staying.
Yeah.
They don't think about suicide
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
they have zero self-awareness.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas you think every little mistake you make is like the end of the world and you're like the worst person and it's never going to get better and like you don't deserve the good things you have. And it's like, no. You don't see how amazing you are. We see it. I see it in just the fucking emails I get, right? So that's the first thing. It's like we can't lose more of the good ones. Like I've already lost too many of them. The other thing is with depression is so many times it has to do with just how you feel about yourself as a person. So like something bad happens to you. You get dumped, right? Being dumped is awful. Going through a breakup is awful. But what happens is we get dumped and then instead of just dealing with the problem at hand, maybe or get fired. Let's use that as an example. Fired, there's this very simple solution, which is I need a new job now, right? But instead of dealing with that, you were like, I get fired. I got fired because I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit who's never going to get a job again, which means I'll never get a fucking girlfriend or boyfriend. I'm never going to get another girlfriend or boyfriend because, and then it just goes on and on and on, and it usually just comes back to your dad, right? and his secret family. And what you should do is it's just like, no, you should deal with that one problem. When it gets into I feel depressed is when you start making it about hating yourself as opposed to I lost this job, good. Now I'm going to fucking hustle to get another. This sucks. I'm going to sit in this for a while, register it sucks, and then I'm going to fucking get a better job. Or I'm going to get a job in the meantime and I'm going to go pursue my dream or I'm going to whatever. But when we start to just beat the shit out of ourselves, it's not about the job anymore. It's about like your confidence as a person. And that's what you have to like kind of come to terms with first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally. And when you beat yourself up about something, then become depressed, your depression is like real. Like you really do think like,
Feel it.
it's like, no, I really should kill myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on the podcast before.
You have, where it's
yeah.
just like there's no other, you feel like there's no other option.
Yeah.
And then you get out of it and you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, think about it in terms of relationships too. Like, all of us remember getting dumped by our first girlfriend and like literally telling your parents, there's never going to be anyone else. And your parents had to fucking game face it and not laugh in your fucking face. Being like, oh, you're going to say this about like 20 other women.
Yeah.
And then the other one, you're going to be like, no, this is different. And no, this is different. And it's like, no, it sucks. And then you get past it. Like you've gotten past all the other shit in your life. I mean, when I went down the self-help spiral, it's probably like a Tony Robbins quote or like someone very self-helpy, but where they said, you either win or you learn. And it's so hokey, but it's so true. If something shitty happens and your first thought is, instead of I'm a piece of shit, like, how is this going to make me better? And that's what I learned from being an athlete. If you keep getting punched in the face every time you throw a cross, you have to fix the cross. But it's so immediate because you're getting punched in the face that you're like, oh, I need to fix this right now. Where you have to have that same sort of lack of ego and immediacy if you're not getting if life is punching you in the face where you're like, oh, this keeps happening. You know, I keep getting dumped because people say I'm angry, or because people say I don't share my feelings, or people. It's like sometimes we take pride and we own our flaws. Where you're like, I'm just a fucking asshole who gets drunk at parties. It's like, well, stop.
Yeah.
Like you brag about it so you almost don't have to change.
Totally.
You know, and it's like, well, just don't do that thing.
I think that's hilarious when people do that sometimes, though. What? I'm just a dick.
I'm
dude.
just a fucking dick. It's like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's not a thing we value.
Yeah.
There's no dick currency. Anyway, guys, I'm so sorry I haven't been that funny, and I've just been incredibly sappy and sentimental. But that is
No,
sort
I
of
like
that has been my life as the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And you think you've been happier pretty much directly because you're a more positive person? Because you're not in that negative environment.
Because I'm not in a negative environment. Because I'm trying to put others before me, and I'm trying to sort of like start my day like actually being grateful about things. You can't be grateful on the left either. You're just like, man, today's a good day. It's just like there are children dying in Iraq, and you're like, that's not my fault. I will protest that.
Yeah.
And also, like, you will be a better activist, by the way, if you are happy and you take care of yourself.
Totally. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm better for that. I'm better because Rogan talks about this. Do something challenging. So for me, it was fighting, right? And obviously, like, exercise as well with that. But fighting is really challenging. Like, I started when I was 28, and, like, every day I fight, like, you know, I'm 36 now, and I'm like helping people prepare for like the UFC and fighting just 24-year-old studs. What's great about fighting is you get to feel tough, you get to get confident, but also every day someone beats the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So it also gets your ego in check, you know?
Yeah.
But just like learning a skill. Like, I mean, like when I first started playing guitar, like just that excitement of like learning something new and having something to like attack, you know, especially if you're stuck at a job you hate or something like that. It's like, write, blog, put something positive out in the world. Yeah, dude, all of that. I mean, and I have had some of the worst days of my life in these 2 years. And I am still, this is the least I've ever had financially, connection wise, all that stuff. And especially in the last 6 months, I've like hit this sort of like very positive stride. And like, I mean, even today, like I had a phone call with like one of the biggest publishers in the world, and old me would have been like, here are all the reasons I shouldn't get a book deal. Here are all the reasons I'm stupid. And like, we're at like 90% done now. Because I just like, and right before, this is so stupid, but I just like, before I was like, I'm going to get a book deal. I'm going to get a book deal. And like it's shit, like it helps. It doesn't work. It's not like it's not a hack. It's literally just believing in yourself. And I'm gonna have a lot more fucking hills and battles, and like it's hard, man. It's hard. Like it's not rebranding, because rebranding is calculated. I've seen guys who do that. I would make so much money right now if I wrote the book. Why I Left the Left and the Right is Right. The king of publishing would knock on my door and he would hand me a giant check for $1 trillion. And I would go on Fox News and I would have my own fucking show, and I'd probably like run for president against some like fucking like Trump or Clinton fetus and win in like 8 years, right? But I'm like, I'm still like a liberal guy, and I know that's not my values. And especially under Donald Trump, especially in our industry, very like lefty Hollywood comedy, under Trump is not the time people want to hear like, hey, who wants to talk about nuance and moderation? People are like, go fuck yourself. But it's like, it's how I feel. And I know it's how a lot of other people feel. So like, I'm willing to take like the slow road. But the only reason that I can do that again is because I'm like, I know right now I'm being the best person I can be. I know that, as long as I sort of follow that, people can say whatever the fuck they want. I wrote for a site that had some like, that has lefty and righty Republicans write for it, and there were verified people being like, he's transphobic now. I didn't write about trans people. I just wrote for a site that I assume had maybe like an anti-trans piece once. But it's like, all right, well, the New York Times also led us to war with Iraq. So when are liberals going to start writing for them? Like everywhere is problematic. And you just have to get to the point where like you don't give a shit what people say on Twitter. And I still do, by the way. If I still get bad comments or I see people say things that aren't true about me, like it sucks.
Yeah.
But now, instead of like going down that rabbit hole, I close my computer, I go for a walk, I hang out with a friend, I call my family, I do jujitsu, I do a podcast,
Yeah.
whatever.
Sounds like you're way healthier than you used to be.
Yeah.
But again, it's only because I lost everything. What
Right.
I would love is if people hear my story and they fucking get out of it before
Totally.
they do, you know, because it's physically addicting.
I feel like a lot of our listeners, they're young, and sometimes it's cool to be angry.
Well,
Yeah, oh my God.
It's cool,
Yeah.
cool to be angry.
Yeah.
But that'll just make you unhappy. So if you're a miserable cunt listening to this right now,
Yep.
man up
Yep.
and go kill a child.
Go, yeah, please.
The gay kid.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I
That,
feel
that was actually the name. That was the subtitle of the book I pitched today.
Go kill a gay kid.
Go kill a gay kid.
well, I've got to just say that I think that your happiness is a microaggression towards me, and I think you should apologize right now. So go ahead and apologize.
Here we go. I have to make another public apology. I apologize to my fans that I let down. For
Sorry, I'm happy.
I'm so sorry. I'm happy. I'm a sadist, I guess you would say, towards people who currently aren't happy. If my happiness triggered you, I will go back to being depressed because I'm a good ally. Solidarity, you sad fucks.
Well, Jamie Kilstein, it's been good talk, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
What are your plans? So now you're
Okay.
not a miserable cunt anymore.
Yeah. So I have a podcast that I'm actually really proud of. So it's called the Jamie Kilstein Podcast. It was originally called Fuck Up Pod because like that's kind of where I was, but I was like, dude, just love yourself. Also, it's really hard to search in iTunes.
Yeah.
So it's called the Jamie Kilstein Podcast, and we don't really talk about we talk about a lot of this stuff. We talk about like current things we're fucking up. Like I had Moby on, who's like so left wing, and we just talked about like The Simpsons and being insecure with women. I had one of my favorite UFC fighters, and like we talked about like him growing up poor and not being able to eat healthy and like shit like that. My friend Andy from this band Crown the Empire, who no one my age knows, but all your listeners will know. Me and him do another podcast together, and he comes on mine and co-hosts it. And
Sweet. What's that band name again?
Crown the Empire.
I don't know.
They're
Do
a big old emo band.
Do you know 'em?
Crab never.
They're great. Their new song is actually, I've only been listening to it.
They're a new emo band.
Ish.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I don't know any of like the people in their year. Like I came
Yeah.
up with like Bad Religion and like
Yeah.
I'm friends with the guys from like Rise Against who are a little and like Fall
Yeah,
Out.
that's what I know too.
Yeah. So yeah, Tim from Rise Against like came on the show. The drummer from Fall Out Boy used to come to my stand-up shows,
Nice.
which is like yes.
Yeah.
I'm such like a secret pop punk guy.
Yeah.
So Jamie Kilstein podcast, it's free, and we sort of kind of like you guys have this like community of like weirdos. So you can get that on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify. My Twitter is at Jamie Kilstein. My Instagram, my happy place is at Jamie Kilstein Podcast. That's it, man. I'm just doing the shows that I'm not making myself do shitty bar shows. I'm just doing shows with like people I like. I'm touring in Sydney in the UK later in the year.
Oh, nice.
I'm working on this book. That's it, man. I'm just living my best life, doing a lot of jujitsu.
Things are on the up.
Things are on the
Nice,
up.
man.
Yeah, and this week especially was the first time I'm like, oh, I'm going to be happy and things are going to be okay. As
Yeah.
opposed to I'm going to be happy in like a studio apartment teaching jujitsu
Yeah.
for like no money for the
Yeah,
rest
yeah.
of my life.
Well, dude, congrats on hitting,
Thanks, guys.
congrats on hitting rock bottom.
Dude, again, great advice, guys. If you're feeling pretentious and kind of you need to check on yourself, get into a terrible relationship and make mistakes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Check out Jamie's podcast. Send him some hate on Twitter.
God, please don't. Here, can you guys actually send me how I triggered your sadness by being happy? And I will retweet all of those. That was one of the funniest things anyone has ever said to me on a podcast.
Yeah, a message to our listeners. Tweet us more. I barely get any tweets about this fucking thing.
Oh,
You don't get any tweets?
Young people are not on Twitter because they're like happy. They're like Instagram, Snapchatty.
All right,
Yeah,
well,
no, that's true.
That's-
Yeah, it's usually people in their mid-20s that are like, yeah.
Dude, again, it's like even like on my old show, like, which was like very Twitter centric. Half of our stories were like, this journalist got mad at that journalist on Twitter, and like anyone under like fucking like 25 was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they're like not following that shit. We just have to be on Twitter because every goddamn comic is.
Yeah, I know.
And plus, I'm not verified on Instagram. I'm verified on Twitter and Facebook, so I look cool. So that's why I'm like, I still go on it. But like, man, when I can get famous enough to just like cat pictures on Instagram, that's like the fucking dream.
That's my dream.
Yeah, but don't feel bad about the Twitter thing. That's why.
All right.
Is your fans have better shit to do.
All right, well,
Probably.
thanks, dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys.
This was easy for us because we barely even had to talk.
I felt like such an asshole. I kept like pausing to be like, you guys,
Do you want to talk?
do I
you
do I
guys.
keep going? Yeah. But yeah, it's I've been through a lot, so I have a lot of bullshit to say.
You have a lot to say.
right, well, I hope it helped.
This is inspiring to me, actually.
Is it?
Because I've been following you for years and knew you were in the Rogan thing. And I just watched you and was like, man, he doesn't seem very happy. Like, he's always angry.
That's so
Now
interesting.
Rogan's yelling at him. So it's good to see you happy.
That's so interesting,
Even
man.
though I barely know you.
Because I really didn't. I didn't feel it when I was in it until
Really?
And even when people saw me back on Rogan, like the good one, in November, a lot of people, even like old fans who kind of wrote me and they're like, "You look really good. Like
Nice.
you just look." Yeah, like happier and
You look hot.
Thank you. But I didn't realize that until
I see.
like I didn't realize how miserable I must have like seemed because
Right.
I thought it was righteous anger.
Yeah.
But it was just like no, like sad and projection.
Gotcha. Well, onward from here.
Onward.
What are you doing tonight? We're about to end. Don't worry. Put the mic down. I was like, no, one more question. What are you up to tonight?
I'm going to that Adam 22. I'm gonna go the No Jumper podcast. He's gonna come on.
Nice.
I went on his last week, and I didn't know who he was. And I was just like, yeah, I'll do your little podcast. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you have 9 million subscribers. So he's being nice enough to, he's going to do my podcast today.
Nice, dude.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So that's where I'm going. What about
yeah,
you
dude.
guys? You got shows?
I'm headed to Big Bear for.
Oh, that's right. For
May.
your girls gangbang.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be there. Don't
All
worry.
right.
Cuckapalooza.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In
Okay.
Big Bear. Yeah, great.
Brandon, what are you doing tonight, dude?
Going to Big Bear.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm
Damn
doing.
it.
Come on.
Oliver, you going to Big Bear?
I'm driving the car, man.
Thank you.
You got it.
I'm bringing the Nutri-Grain bars. Just in
Okay.
case. We probably going to get hungry.
I want to go to Big Bear.
I haven't had a Nutri-Grain bar in a minute. Let's do 30 more minutes on Nutri-Grain bars. All right, dudes. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, guys.
We end this by saying, I'm sorry, Dad. So, I'm sorry, Dad.
I'm sorry, Dad.
I'm so sorry, Dad.
I'm sorry, Dad.